You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but you grew up and things changed. Well, it's time to put... Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 14:30 a.m. and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indie's Sports Ticket. What a way to start the show. Love that. You know, it's an intro so nice you had to hear it twice, essentially, there. What's going on? The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indie's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's Twitter, right? Follow me at __ Jonathan Smith. Follow the station as well at Ticket 1430. Oh, man, a lot of stuff to get to today. Let's start, I guess, with Gus Bradley and just the incredible amount of nonsense that just spewed out of his mouth yesterday. Oh my gosh. I was listening back to his press conference last night, and I was like, this guy, geez. You know, like there's been a lot of talk. I know I've covered this at length here on my show. There's been a lot of talk about who the Colts are going to put at free safety this season, because let's be honest, they don't have anyone to put back there. There is a major lack of depth at that position. There's just a major lack of dudes that can play that position on this roster. Okay, there's not a starting caliber free safety on the team. Sorry, Nick Cross. Meanwhile, Justin Simmons, one of the best free safeties in the NFL, just sitting there, just waiting for someone to come and pick him up. And I'm just sitting here waiting like, hey, Chris Ballard, do you want to get your head out of the sand and maybe go get a really good free safety? I think that'd be a good idea. You know, I'm not an NFL GM and I don't understand everything, but I do understand that Justin Simmons is a great player, and I do understand that the Colts have cap space, and I do understand that you can use that cap space to address a position of need. So please, Chris Ballard, I know you're listening. I know you are. Do everyone a favor. Do me a favor. Do that secondary a favor, because it needs as many secondaries, as many favors as it can get, because that secondary is terrible. Just do everyone a favor. Go out there and sign Justin Simmons. Okay, he's needed. And knowing that this is a position of concern, because everyone knows that this is a position of concern, the media did something right yesterday here in Indianapolis. They asked Colts defensive coordinator Gus Bradley about how the position battle at free safety was going. Here's what Colts defensive coordinator Gus Bradley had to say about that.
It's been good. I think that was one of the positions we looked at yesterday where we started to see some flashes where, you know, the execution part is there. So now when you see them play with good execution, you can kind of judge their speed then. They're not thinking as much. So, you know, we still got some work to do there as far as our evaluation, but it's going in the right direction.
That sounds nice. The execution's there. We're just trying to judge the speed now. We've got some more time to figure out, you know, the rest of our evaluation and how all that's going to work. Whatever. What a load of crap. You guys need help at that position. That is what you need. He just gave us a fat load of bull crap. He did. Now, look, I love Shane Steichen. I am on the record vouching for him. I think he's one of the better head coaches in the NFL. Already. And I got to be honest, though, as much as I love Shane Steichen, I don't understand why he still has Gus Bradley hired as his defensive coordinator. I understand that they coached together when they were both with the Chargers. Cool. Whatever. Go find literally anybody else, please. Okay? This position battle isn't going well. It's not. There's no way that it is. It's like, Jonathan, you aren't there. You're in the studio every day. You haven't been out to training camp. How do you know? Here's how I know. If the battle is going so well, then why is Anthony Richardson, a guy who only completed 59% of his passes last year, why is that guy just lighting up the secondary literally every single day? If this position battle was going so well, then I'm sorry. I just don't think Anthony Richardson would be having the camp that he is. Every single time I see a report or a video from Colts training camp, it's about how Anthony Richardson is lighting up this horrendously bad secondary. Okay, here is how dire the situation is at free safety for the Indianapolis Colts. They have Ronnie Harrison playing free safety. If you don't know who that is, the Colts signed him, I believe, 2 years ago with the intent of him playing linebacker, not free safety. Earlier in Ronnie Harrison's career, he played strong safety, right? Operating down at the line of scrimmage, in the box, all that cool stuff. This guy, Ronnie Harrison, hasn't played free safety since he was in high school. And the Colts think that this could be their potential starter. That's a red flag. That's a major, major red flag. Okay, the Colts desperately need to go outside of the building and find someone else who can do this, preferably Justin Simmons. Seriously, come on now. There's got to be some sort of change made at that free safety spot. This is a major hole in the defense, and converting a linebacker to a free safety isn't going to fix it. The fact that they're even considering this, the fact that they're even trying this out, tells you just how bad these other players that they have at free safety are on this roster. Okay, they have to find a solution for this. I get that Gus Bradley can't ring Chris Ballard out in front of the media. Okay, that's how you lose your job. It is. But he needs to say something behind closed doors. A conversation has to be had about this free safety spot. And I'm sure that there have been, but there needs to be a serious one of like, hey, man, we're 5 practices deep, and we don't know who we're going to play there. And we're thinking about putting a linebacker at free safety. Maybe it's time we go get anybody else, especially when there's good free safeties still available out there on the market. Okay? Because, look, the Colts have caught a semi-break with their scheduling. Like, they're not playing too many of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But if this team was to accomplish its goal of winning the division, getting back to the playoffs, all those things, eventually you are going to have to play some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You are. Okay, when you get to the playoffs, you're going to have to face Mahomes or Justin Herbert or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or any of these guys. And when you look at this secondary, like if second year Anthony Richardson can light these dudes up, then certainly Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and the rest of these awesome AFC quarterbacks can do the exact same thing. Okay? Like this secondary is in deep trouble. There's an opportunity to upgrade the talent at the position, and the Colts need to do that. The Colts have a major hole in the back end of this secondary. Okay? And the idea that they don't even have someone who plays the position. The Colts need help. And the answer is right in front of them. It's Justin Simmons out of Denver, or he played for Denver last year. Now he's just a normal everyday free agent. But still, like he's just sitting there. Go get him. Okay? Go get him. There is a lack of depth at that position, and the Colts need to address it immediately. Okay, this isn't like the edge rusher spot where Chris Ballard has invested a lot of draft capital into that position, right? Which is, as of right now, like that's a great thing. Okay, when you lose a player like Samson Ebukam, like that sucks. Guy who had 9.5 sacks last year. Okay, when you lose a guy like that, like you have to have guys behind him. The Colts do. And obviously with the loss of Ebukam, like you have to ask the defensive coordinator about what's going to happen, right? And, Shane Steichen was asked about it yesterday or 2 days ago, and he didn't really say much. But Gus Bradley definitely did. Here's what Gus Bradley had to say about losing Samson Ebukam.
Yeah, it's tough. Whenever you lose a guy like Samson, a rusher like that, it's always difficult. But someone will step up to it, and we want to be 8 deep. So now it's like, well, who's going to be the next, group of 8? But, someone will step up, and I think everybody sees their role kind of change. And, some guys will get more reps now, and we'll get a chance to evaluate them. So our goal is still to get the 8, and now it might be with just someone else in that place.
Does it accelerate Latu?
Yeah, we were kind of moving along slow, to get a feel for it, but he'll get more and more reps now.
That was Gus Bradley talking about what they're going to do with the Samson Ebukam injury. And, I'm still interested to see what they do. I'm excited isn't the right word because losing a player like Ebukam isn't fun, but there's depth there. There's depth at that position. And so they're going to be fine. And look, everything that he said there makes sense. Going 8 deep is good. Okay, the Colts want to rotate defensive linemen in and out. If you have 8 guys, that is an ample amount to be able to rotate these guys in and out. That way they're fresh at the end of games and at the end of, the first half when you're in 2-minute drill and all those things. And, when he said, hey, we want to go 8 deep, I had to look at the roster last night and figure out who the 8 players are. So here's my assumption as of right now. Kwity Paye, Leatu Latu, Tyquan Lewis, DeForest Buckner, Raekwon Davis, Grover Stewart, Dio Adangbo, and Taven Bryan. It's not a bad list of players. I will say, though, I really hope Taven Bryan plays as few snaps as possible this year. I think the Colts went out in free agency and got Raekwon Davis so that they wouldn't have to play Taven Bryan very much. Okay, he was bad last year. It's the nice way to put it. With Grover Stewart missing time because of, the PED stuff. They had to put someone else in there. It was Taven Bryan. He wasn't very good, so they went out and they got Raekwon Davis. So hopefully that's the guy that they lean on. But Taven Bryan being in that top 8 is not. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. Now, there is a part of this clip that I know people are complaining about. So after Gus Bradley answers the initial question, another reporter, can't tell by the voice, no idea who it is, they ask about Leatu Latu. They're like, does this speed up the development of Leatu Latu? And Gus Bradley then mentioned that they were bringing Leatu Latu along slowly. And I can hear it. I can hear the people yelling, What? Why are they bringing along the first round pick slowly? Isn't he supposed to be NFL ready? We've heard all these great things about him. What's going on? Why would they bring him along slowly? I can hear it. All that fun stuff. Look, the Colts have a lot of productive rushers. You may say, well, they don't have a singular great one. That's fine. Whatever. They were 3rd in the NFL in sacks last year. Okay. They had a bunch of dudes who got after the quarterback. Okay. 3rd in the NFL in sacks. I digress on that point. When you have that many productive rushers, there should be no rush with Leatu Latu. Okay, I think that the last thing you want to do is to put a guy on the field before he's ready to fully contribute in every facet of the game. Okay, because if he's not ready, that doesn't do him very good. It doesn't do the rest of the team any good. And it doesn't, you're not going to win games if you have a guy on the field who doesn't know what he's doing. And if you don't believe me, may I just refer you back to Bernard Raymond's rookie season when he was absolutely terrible. And it was pretty evident that he wasn't ready to play. Okay, so the idea of them bringing Latu along slowly is totally fine to me. Let's make sure he's ready. That way, when he does step on the field, because he's going to play this year, that way, when he does step on the field, he's ready to go. Okay, now here's the thing. I think that this is me guessing here. My thing with Latu is when they say that they're bringing him along slowly, I think that it's from this perspective of run defense, right? Because he's been advertised as this awesome pass rusher. And I believe that coming into the season, the goal was for him to play half the snaps, be on the field a lot for passing situations, which is fine with me. But if it's 2nd and 3 and the Colts want to put Kwity Paye in instead of Leatu Latu to help defend the run, that's fine by me. I'm not going to get upset about that because they didn't draft him to stuff the run. They drafted him to get after the quarterback. So as long as Leatu Latu is on the field in passing situations, they can bring him along as slowly as they want to in terms of his ability to defend the run. Okay? I want him on the field in passing situations because that's what he was drafted for. I don't care what they do on 2nd and 3 or 3rd and 1. I really don't. Okay? And also, based off of the audio that I played yesterday, Chris Ballard clearly believes that edge rushers have a tough time their rookie season. So it shouldn't be surprising at all that the Colts were planning on bringing him along slowly after hearing that yesterday. Right. And speaking of Kwity Paye, I'm on the record saying that I think that Kwity Paye is going to have another good year because he was good last year. He was. All right. Now, I think he's going to be even better this year. I think he has the potential to be a double-digit sack guy. If he doesn't miss a game last year, then maybe he gets to 10. I don't know. But look, I don't like Gus Bradley. I don't. On the record for that, I think he's a below-average defensive coordinator at best. But I do like what he has to say about Kwity Paye. He made me feel a lot better about my take yesterday. Here's Gus Bradley talking about Kwity Paye and just how he looks coming in to training camp.
Yeah, I think for him, it's just that lean body mass and his quickness, and he's in a really good spot right now. I mean, I think he feels probably better than he ever has coming into camp, and you're seeing it, as far as his speed and things like that. So, another one, we're just challenging. Just, hey, you're in great shape. Now just fine-tune some things and keep playing hard, and let's see where it goes. But he does look really good for us.
That was Gus Bradley talking about Kwity Paye and everything that he's got going on and how he looks. And based off of everything that Gus Bradley just said there, I feel like there could be legitimate Kwity Paye highlights to show people after the end of this year. Even though he had 8.5 sacks last year, which is pretty good, just outside the top 30, which I think is a fair place for a former 21st overall pick to be. Let's quit acting like this guy was selected 3rd overall. All right. The quickness and the explosiveness sounds like it's there. Okay, Kwity Paye is going after a contract extension. That's plenty of motivation for anybody. It's like, hey, man, do you want to make several million more dollars? It's like, yeah, that sounds good. So I can't wait to see what Kwity Paye looks like over the course of the season. I'm also intrigued about this offensive line. I feel like there's been a lot of discussion around, Anthony Richardson, the receivers, the defensive line, especially after the Ibukum injury, that we haven't talked a ton about the offensive line. Quentin Nelson went to the podium yesterday to talk about the offensive line, and he had some interesting comments about what they're going to look like. I'm going to get into those when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
More winners, more often. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you guys are having a nice day. I know I am. It's Thursday. I get free coffee today, which I love so much. Shout out to Dan. You know, it's really funny because like the longer you work with people, you get to know them more. And the first time that I want to bet over Dan, I kind of felt bad. I was like, geez, like this dude, he's gonna go buy me Wendy's, like, which is great. Like I'm excited for that, but like I kind of feel bad. Usually I take the money from Vegas and I put it in my pocket and I don't really think about it. But now that I know Dan the way I do, it's like he'll be okay. He will be. Also, head over to YouTube, join this chat. It's just me and Otter Creek arguing. I need more people in there just to get on my side of things, right? We're talking about Chris Ballard, and that always brings about many different conversations. But speaking of Chris Ballard, we know that he is adamant about building the offensive line because that is ultimately where you win football games. You're not going to win games if you can't protect your quarterback, and you're not going to win games if you can't figure out a way to run the football. And Chris Ballard, that's something that he firmly believes. Quentin Nelson yesterday went to the stand, and Quentin Nelson doesn't play around. He's a pretty no-nonsense guy. His tone is funny. I was listening to him yesterday. I was like, this dude is unintentionally funny. I don't know why. I just kept finding myself laughing at the things he was saying because he would say that like things were great, but his tone didn't sound like things were great. And I just think that it's because he, he's just a serious guy. But he took to the podium yesterday, and he had some high praise for this offensive line, which isn't surprising. But some of the specific things that he said was surprising. So here is Colts offensive guard, future Hall of Famer offensive guard, Quentin Nelson, discussing right tackle Braden Smith coming back after an injury-riddled season last year.
Yeah, I mean, Braden's a warrior. I think he had a really good offseason of getting healthy and getting strong. And when he was out there, I mean, he was like our best offensive lineman, like running past when he was out there. So just he's done a great job, and he works his tail off to be at his best for the team and for the guys. His care factor is super high for this team, and he shows that through his play. So it's great to have him back out here working back in and getting back into the groove.
That was Colts offensive guard, future Hall of Famer Quentin Nelson there, just discussing, Braden Smith, who's coming back after just an injury-riddled season last year, in and out of the lineup. And look, Quentin Nelson just doesn't really seem like the type to just talk and pass out compliments. Okay, he called Braden Smith, quote, their best offensive lineman in both run and pass blocking. Now, the rest of the players could be terrible. That's quite possible. But I don't think that's the case. I know that we don't like Chris Ballard and all that fun stuff, but here's the thing. If he's had the same group together for the last 3 years, if one of them was terrible, they would have moved off of one of them by now. Now, that being said, I don't expect for the Colts to have the best offensive line in the NFL. I don't expect them to have the worst one either, though. I expect them to have an average to above average offensive line because guys like Ryan Kelly and Quentin Nelson are just getting older. Okay, they are. But look, if Braden Smith was as good as Quentin Nelson made him out to be, then maybe the Colts will be fine in terms of their ability to protect Anthony Richardson this year. Okay, I've talked a lot about the defensive line with Abukum and Latu getting hurt. I've talked a lot about Anthony Richardson and the wide receivers, but it all starts up front. If the Colts offensive line isn't good, they aren't going to win many games. It's truly that simple. That's one thing that every bad team has in common. Their offensive line isn't good. Okay, you have to have guys that can give your quarterback time to find receivers and all of that fun stuff. Okay, you have to have it. Okay, sure, Anthony Richardson has the ability to extend plays, but you can't ask a second-year player, even if he was the 4th overall pick, you can't ask him to be Superman every time he snaps the ball. The offensive line has to be good. And it's nice hearing Quentin Nelson say that the Colts right tackle Braden Smith looks good coming off of an injury-filled season last year. Okay, and the positive comments from Quentin Nelson kept flowing about this offensive line. He was asked about Bernard Raymond's development over the past few years, and here's what Quentin Nelson had to say about his left tackle, Bernard Raymond.
Yeah, it's just been every year Bernie's been getting better and just learning from his playing experience. And then also one thing I really admire about Bernie is like his rookie year, going through rookie struggles, dealing with injuries too. He's like never once even thought about taking himself out of a game. He's got asked and he's like, no, I'm staying in there. Screw that. And once I heard him say that when he was a rookie, I was just like, this is my left tackle, you know? And he's just grown year after year after year. And it's an honor, pleasure playing next to him. I really enjoy it.
That was Quentin Nelson. They're talking about third-year offensive tackle Bernard Raymond, who has, and look, Quentin Nelson's right. This guy has gotten better and better every year talking about Bernard Raymond. And I still am pretty middle of the road on Bernard Raymond. Okay, that's how I think you could do better. I also think that you could do a lot worse. You seriously could. Okay, one thing there, though, that sticks out is that Bernard Raymond is clearly tough. Okay, I remember how awful he was his rookie year. He was terrible. It was hard to watch. I'm sure we all remember that, and I'm sure none of us want to remember how terrible Bernard Raymond was his rookie year. But now, maybe the unwillingness to come out despite those rookie struggles was a sign of toughness. I would say that it is. Okay, it's hard to want to continue doing something when you continue to get your butt kicked. Okay, for example, my wife and I, we have a video game that we play together. Basically, like the goal is like you work together to solve these different puzzles. And the game's hard, and I get really upset, and I want to quit all the time whenever we play because it's hard and it's not fun doing things that are continuously hard when you just continue to lose. And that was very much Bernard Raymond's rookie year. And hearing that he was unwilling to come out despite those struggles, I think is a good sign of toughness and the willingness to persevere and push through this really hard thing. Okay? And look, it paid off. Last year, Bernard Raymond's second year, he was good. He was a good left tackle last year. Bernard Raymond played over 1,000 sacks, or excuse me, he played over 1,000 snaps and only gave up 4 sacks. That's a good season from a second-year left tackle. Okay? And look, if he got better over the offseason heading into year 3, then maybe he's this franchise's future, like, long-term left tackle. I think that'd be awesome. I really do. He had a good year last year. Let's see if he can build off of it. PFF gave him a grade at the end of the year at 85, which was top 10 amongst left tackles. Like that's a good year. Okay, so hopefully he can build on that, build off of that, and hopefully he can continue to improve as he continues to get older, mature, and get more snaps in the NFL. Okay, and I think that he will. I do. Just because he's playing with the same unit once again. Okay, and look, Quentin Nelson wasn't the only guy who is witnessing the improvements from Bernard Raymond. Colts offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter has seen these improvements as well.
Yeah, he's like a lot of young players where came out of a smaller school, had a chance to sort of get into the NFL, get going, and just every single repetition you watch him improve something, whether it's a footwork, whether it's an angle as he's sort of downfield trying to take on that linebacker. What exact angle should I take? You know, just all the nuances that come with all the positions at offensive line, but tackle's one of those. You know, it's not something that happens overnight. It does happen with repetitions. Bernard's gotten a lot of reps over the last several years, and he's really improving through those reps. I think Coach Tony Sperano's doing a great job with him. Chris Watt's doing a great job helping out. Like that room is really doing a great job of working together to get each other better and to get better individually. And Bernie's making the most of it right now. And it's still ongoing, right? We have all these practice reps and we go back to the office back there. We have our meetings. We try to correct guys and little slight things. This angle, that step, your hand placement. He's taking those notes. He's improving sort of day after day, and hopefully that's going to show up this year, week after week, just continually getting better. That's what we all want to do.
That was Colts offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter discussing Bernard Raymond and the improvements that he's shown, and just he was really talking about the entire offensive line in general there. Players are seeing it. Coaches are seeing it. Like, let's go. Like, the Colts need Raymond to continue to play well this year. Once again, he was good last year, only gave up 4 sacks and over 1,000 snaps played. PFF grade of 85 at the end of last year. Okay, like, people talk about Anthony Richardson potentially making a leap this year. Well, Bernard Raymond made a leap from year 1 to year 2. Okay, because he was awful his rookie season. Now, hopefully he can repeat that this year, because this offensive line is going to be extremely important. It's vital to the success of this team, not only because, you obviously need a good offensive line to win football games, but you need a good offensive line to keep Anthony Richardson in the games. Okay, so hopefully they can have another good year. I think this offensive line is going to be good. There's plenty of camaraderie up front, which is important. Chemistry is a thing that really matters. This is their 3rd straight year with the same starting 5 offensive linemen. And Quentin Nelson was asked about just the importance of that yesterday, and here's what he had to say.
It's great. And with Coach Sbrano the last 2 years, it's we've been building the chemistry so much in the O-line room, off the field. He really puts the emphasis on that. And then on the field and off the field during camp, we're just having so much fun together. And it really does make a difference on the field for sure. Just our chemistry, our bond, and wanting to play for one another. So, yeah, it's been good.
That was Quentin Nelson talking about just playing with the same guys year in and year out. And chemistry is an important thing. It is. Okay, when you play basketball or really do anything with the same people consistently year in and year out, you learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. You learn kind of how to cover for the other guy, and you know what your teammates prefer to do, and all those important things. And that is an advantage. Okay, like, there shouldn't need to be any tweaking all year long, because these guys know each other so well. Hopefully, this chemistry leads to them protecting Anthony Richardson well enough that he plays all 18 games this year. Because, look, if Anthony Richardson can play all 18 games, I think the Colts are going to have a pretty decent shot at making the playoffs and potentially winning this division. Now, last thing here on this Quentin Nelson interview, I have a bone to pick. Why didn't anyone ask him about the scuffle with Zaire Franklin? Come on now. We need audio on that. I want to hear what happened. Did Zaire Franklin say something stupid? Did Quentin Nelson just pancake him and Zaire Franklin got upset about it? Like, what? Like, I can't believe that they didn't ask. Actually, I can. I can totally believe that the Indianapolis Colts media didn't ask Quentin Nelson about a scuffle he had with Zaire Franklin. Just ridiculous. But obviously, the offensive line is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to the offense. Colts offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter went to the stand yesterday as well, and he had a lot of things to say. I love when coordinators go to the podium, because when Shane Steichen talks, it's like 2-sentence answers at max. Jim Bob Cooter, though, that guy can talk. He revealed a pretty decent amount of information on this Colts offense so far through training camp. I'm going to give you that audio when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's in the car, 1430 AM, maybe you're watching on YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. Head over there, subscribe, trying to build that channel up. Hop in the chat, discuss the things I'm talking about or what everyone else in the chat is talking about, which is currently the Olympics. And maybe you're watching on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Follow us there at Ticket1430. And while you're there, follow me as well at __ Jonathan Smith. Now, I want to move to the exciting part of the ball. I want to move to the offensive side of the ball, where Bob Cooter, Colts offensive coordinator, had many, many thoughts yesterday. He had thoughts on the wide receivers. He had thoughts on Anthony Richardson. He had thoughts on the offensive line, which I played a little bit earlier. Just thoughts about everything. And I love it when coordinators talk at the podium and not Shane Steichen. Because when Shane Steichen goes to the podium, you ask him a question, he gives you like an 8-second response, and then he moves on. Not Gus Bradley, and definitely not Bob Cooter, who loves to talk. And it's just he gives a lot of information when he answers questions. I love it. And Bob Cooter had a ton to say on the day that Alec Pierce had yesterday.
Yeah, he made some big plays, man. Made some big plays. He always brings it to practice. Every single day, he is as consistent as they come. His work ethic, his work habits, his pre-practice habits, just the way he prepares himself to have a shot at having some success during that practice when those opportunities go up. I'm kind of remembering right now, a year ago today, you kind of remember, like, if you miss one or two of those, you think you're not having a great camp, but in reality, it's a small sample size type of camp. And he had a great shot at a few today, and he went out and made some huge plays. It goes that way a little bit for wideouts. They're going to be, they're fighting and clawing and scratching to beat their DB for that catch. And quarterbacks trying to put the ball in a certain spot. And sometimes those are 50-50 balls we're trying to get more than 50% of. And Alec went out and made some big ones today. So shoot, we can't get enough guys making big plays around here. That's always going to be the case. And Alec made a few good ones today.
That was Colts offensive coordinator Bob Cooter, which is an awesome name, by the way. That was him talking about Alec Pierce and, just waxing poetic about the plays that Alec Pierce made yesterday. And I'm glad for Alec Pierce. That is great for him. I hope he continues to make these plays. I hope he figures it out and has a long NFL career. And I hope he can be a viable player down the road. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. This job, this other wide receiver job across from Michael Pittman Jr., this job is A.D. Mitchell's. Okay? Colts wouldn't have drafted him unless they thought he could play immediately. They wouldn't have spent a second-round pick on him if they didn't think that he could play. And he can do so much more than Alec Pierce can. Now, Alec Pierce, great deep threat, big dude, can win 50-50 balls. He can do all that fun stuff. But he can't do much else. Okay, Kent Sterling, I think, said this well on Dan's show a couple weeks ago during the Power Hour, which you can listen to on Mondays from 2 to 3. He said it pretty simply. Alec Pierce slows down when he's cutting, while A.D. Mitchell speeds up. Okay, and when you hear that, do you need to know much more? Once again, glad that Alec Pierce had a good day at practice, but that starting wide receiver job is A.D. Mitchell's through and through. Now, a job that is actually up for grabs is that tight end position. And that's another position battle that I haven't talked about a ton because the Colts have a bunch of fine tight ends, and I feel like it's more important to discuss the free safety spot where the Colts don't have anyone. But Bob Cooter was asked about the tight end battle yesterday, and he revealed that they have no clue who they're going to give the majority of these tight end snaps to.
We're trying to be deliberate about within our practice planning, having enough different reps from different personnel groups where we are seeing some personnel snaps where there are 2 of them on the field or 3 of them on the field. And like I said, as we're going into planning out the practice and scripting out the practice, trying to really ensure that we give them those extra few reps. Coach Tom Manning does such a good job managing their daily repetitions and sort of who's getting how many and which ones they're getting. And he's really trying to do a great job of managing, let's not have this one guy block all the time, this one guy run routes all the time. Hey, we're going to mix and match this thing. Hey, let's not have this one guy run this same route all the time. Hey, you get one, he gets one. So we're going to let everybody run all the routes, do what work, all the different blocking combinations and blocking sort of rules and assignments. We're trying to get everybody better. It's training camp, but we're also trying to evaluate how they can best help us as we head into a 17-game NFL season where we're going to need everybody and we're going to need, everything that they can do well. We're going to need that.
That was Colts offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter discussing this tight end battle. And look, they're taking a look at everybody, obviously. Every single tight end. They're mixing in reps, making sure everyone does everything. And I think the biggest thing there in that clip that I liked hearing was that they're trying to get multiple tight ends on the field. And with the amount of speed that has come into the NFL, I think defenses in the NFL have gotten smaller and faster to counter the speed that NFL offenses have put on the outside. For example, the Colts, Ronnie Harrison, they brought him in to play linebacker, signed him with the intent of him playing linebacker. They're having him take reps at free safety, right? Because teams want faster linebackers now because of the speed on the field. And now you got to play the Colts and they're coming out with multiple tight ends. Like, if they do that, like maybe they're just doing that during training camp so that they can see what all these tight ends can do. Maybe that's part of it. But if they do this during the regular season, then they should be able to push teams around. They really should, which is an important aspect for the Colts because I think they're going to run the football a ton. I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor, especially earlier in the season as they're trying to get Anthony Richardson eased back into things. So I like the idea of having tight ends on the field because I think that the Colts are going to run the football a ton. From a passing perspective, however, they're bigger targets as well, which you would think would make throwing the ball easier for Anthony Richardson. Okay, I think it's easier to complete a pass to a guy like Rob Gronkowski or Travis Kelce or George Kittle than it is to complete a pass to a guy like Tyreek Hill, who's 5'0" and moving at the speed of light. Okay, so from a passing perspective as well, I like the idea of just trying to make things easier on Anthony Richardson, and obviously tight ends are bigger targets, specifically Kylen Granson. Love this dude. I want him on the field every third down. Kylen Granson was the fourth leading receiver for the Colts last year, and he split reps. Okay, he is a player that can make an impact in the passing game. Okay, I hope we see him on the field a ton this fall. He just seemed like a guy last year that always got open on third down. And it's important to have those security blankets, those guys who can just figure out a way to get open when things get tough, especially on third down. So I want to see a lot of Kylen Granson on the field this year. And something else I think we're going to see from the Colts in this offense, I think we're going to see plenty of opportunities for these receivers to make plays after the catch. Okay, Josh Downs, he's a little jitterbug in the slot, 5'10", running a 4.4. I think they're going to give him opportunities to make plays after the catch. Adonai Mitchell, he ran a 4.3 at the combine. We know he can move. I think they're going to look to give him opportunities to make plays after the catch, especially if this offensive line struggles. If they're trying to get the ball out quick, I think they're going to try and set it up where these dudes can make explosive plays after they catch the ball. I think another guy that we could see them give these opportunities to is Anthony Gould, fourth-round pick out of Oregon State. Took him with the idea that, he could be a nice little return specialist. And, the media, they asked Jim Bob Cooter yesterday about Anthony Gould and how he's looked more so on the offensive side of the ball as opposed to special teams.
Yeah, he's made some big plays, and he's had some opportunities at some other that just quite haven't gotten there, whether it's just a hair off with a throw or just a hair off with some good coverage. Anthony has shown us that he's going to have the ability to make big plays. Right now, he's pushing the ball down the field. We've just sort of gotten the pads on, and obviously we're not playing sort of tackle football right now. So I think some of the catch and run stuff is something that Anthony can do well. He's got a really exciting skill set. He comes to work every day and works, man. He works. He's working really hard in Coach Reggie's drills. He's putting his time in with special teams. He is making the most of this training camp to sort of improve himself, but also sort of show us what he's got, right? Because, we're excited about the offense that we're sort of putting together this year and all the different sort of tools that we have and ways that we can attack the defense. And, I think Anthony's trying to break into that and sort of show us what he can do when he gets those opportunities, and he's done that, right? Like I said, last few days, he's made some plays down the field. I think there's more that's going to come as we continue through this camp. We're hoping for it.
That was Colts offensive coordinator Bob Cooter talking about Anthony Gould, 4th-round pick out of Oregon State, small return specialist kind of guy. And Bob, I liked his thoughts. Okay, he had thoughts there on both Anthony Gould and Anthony Richardson. Let's start with Gould. I like that Gould is showing something as a receiver, which is important. It's nice to hear because you can never have too much depth really anywhere. And when the Colts took him in the draft, I immediately thought about the Chiefs, and I thought about Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs drafted Tyreek Hill in the 5th round with the intent of him just being a return specialist, very similar to what the Colts have done with Anthony Gould. Hey, we're going to take this guy. He's going to return punts. He's going to return some kickoffs. With these new kickoff rules, we can get a little spicy. Should be good. Okay, that's why Anthony Gould was taken. Next thing you know, Tyreek Hill shows up at camp, and they let him play wide receiver. And then you look up, and it's like, oh, this is the most explosive player in the league. Now, not saying that Anthony Gould's going to become Tyreek Hill. It's not what I'm saying at all. But if he can just provide a little extra juice to the offense, that would be great. It was also nice to hear that Anthony Richardson is showing the willingness to push the ball down the field. If you missed that part, it was in the middle of Jim Bob's comments there. Okay, it's important that he's looking to push the ball down the field because when we look at the NFL and the way that these teams are scoring, big plays are becoming a more and more important part of offenses in the NFL, which makes sense. It's much harder to score when you're consistently trying to sustain these 10, 12, 15 play drives where it's 4 yards and a cloud of dust. Okay, it's a lot easier to score when on, 2nd and 7, Jonathan Taylor rips off a 50-yard run or Anthony Richardson completes a 30-yard pass to fill in the blank. Okay, that's part of why the Dolphins score so many points because they generate so many big plays. And in order to do that, you have to have a quarterback that is willing to push the ball down the field. So it's nice hearing that Anthony Richardson is taking some chances. He's pushing it deep, which is what he should be doing because he's got an absolute rocket launcher attached to his arm. Okay, you have to have guys that are willing to do that. Now, you also obviously have to have guys that are, not dumb and they're not trying to push the ball down the field too much. But seriously, there are certain quarterbacks in this world where, they're going to throw the ball 4 yards down the field, and that's really going to be it. All right, and those offenses are usually bad. Those players usually look like Sam Ehlinger. Okay, so the fact that the Colts are trusting Anthony Richardson to make these reads deeper down the field is important. It is, and I'm excited. I think this offense is going to be good. I'm revved up. I'm ready to go. I'm excited for Colts season. We get football tonight. We got the Hall of Fame game coming up. I'm going to put it on. I don't think I'm going to sit down and watch every snap because we aren't going to get to see Caleb Williams or CJ Stroud. It doesn't look like either one of them is really going to get much of an opportunity to play, but still, either way, we've got the next preseason game in a week. Colts' first preseason game is in 11 days. It's not this Sunday, but next. It's going to be fun to see how they look, not in shorts and T-shirts, even though they've been in pads these past couple of days. But still, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. It was also fun to watch Team USA yesterday. Dan owes me coffee. Let's go. Turn me up. I'm going to talk about Team USA. Tyrese Haliburton played a little bit yesterday. Going to talk about that when we come back here in about 4.5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hour number 2 getting underway. Hour number 1 was all Colts. Colts offensive line, Colts defensive line, Colts wide receivers. Just everything Colts related was covered in that last hour. So I need just a little break from it, and then we'll get back to it, okay? Promise. Haliburton played yesterday in Team USA's win over South Sudan. Sadly, though, not really, they didn't cover the 29-point spread, which means I can't wait for Dan's show today. Getting some free coffee, which who doesn't love free coffee? I've got a nice white chocolate mocha coming my way. That's ice cream in a cup for those unfamiliar with the best drink that Starbucks has to offer. And I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of people like, I don't like Starbucks. Well, that's where everyone gets their coffee. So I don't really want to hear it. So as sweet as that'll be, it was a bit sweeter watching our Indiana Pacers star Tyrese Haliburton actually get to play. He didn't play a ton. He only played 7.5 minutes, in which he scored 6 points on 2 of 3 shots, all 3 of those shots coming from beyond the 3-point line. And he had 1 assist. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not torn up that he's not playing a ton. It's probably the best thing for him, in all honesty. I also think that if we had known coming into the Olympics how Steve Kerr just wanted to play basketball in general, you know, especially the part where he's decided to play LeBron James as his point guard. I think that if we had known that, like from that moment on, we would have known that Haliburton wasn't going to get to play a ton, because I love Haliburton, but it's LeBron freaking James. Okay, like of course they're going to let him play point guard if he wants to, and that's what they've done with him, which once again, totally fine with the idea of Haliburton not playing a ton. Okay, Haliburton battled a hamstring injury during the regular season, hurt it again in the playoffs. It's probably the best thing for him to not play very much in this setting where he's not really needed. Like, I understand that it's, a cool experience, but look, he got to play yesterday. Okay, if he doesn't play again, then hey, I don't really care. He got to play in the exhibition games. Like, he's in Paris at the Olympics. Like, I don't think he's missing out on that much. So I don't really mind him not playing. Once again, it's probably the best thing for him. Like, as important as the Olympics are, it's way more important that Haliburton's ready to play next year for the Indiana Pacers, especially since Pacers begin writing him some big fat checks next year. Okay, now moving on to the other players for Team USA that, I think that people are going to talk about today. Jason Tatum started and played an unproductive 17 minutes, scored 4 points, only took 4 shots, had 5 rebounds. That's cool. Had a couple assists. I was expecting a lot more. I figured he was going to get his shots up whenever he had the chance, given that he didn't even play at all. Okay, like, come on now, let's go here. But that clearly didn't happen. Okay, with Tatum and Haliburton both getting to play, those minutes had to go to someone. Those minutes came from Joel Embiid, who didn't play at all, which I think is so funny. Like, oh man, Joel Embiid, a guy who's never even made a conference finals, that guy, even though he's won an MVP and he's probably the second best center in the NBA, he didn't play. And I think 76er fans probably feel a similar way as to how I do about Haliburton not playing. Remember, Joel Embiid tore his meniscus, played on a torn meniscus in the playoffs, and I'm sure the 76ers franchise and that fan base is pretty cool with resting him, but I think it's funny because, people were clowning Tatum for not playing, and, like 90% of them were probably from Philadelphia, and then Joel Embiid turns around and he doesn't play. And what makes it even better is Joel Embiid could have played for multiple different countries, including France, and so whenever he runs out onto the floor, he always gets booed. And he chose the United States, where he's been terrible. He fouled out of one of the exhibition games in like 5 minutes. And when he's avoided fouling out, he's been terrible. Okay, he honestly deserves to not play. He has been so much worse than Anthony Davis, who was good yesterday, and Bam Adebayo, who led the team in scoring. Okay, they were both awesome yesterday, leading Team USA to a victory. Like they don't need Joel Embiid. But then again, they don't need like 4 of these guys. Okay, like they could have taken whichever 8 they wanted, and then just four randoms like me, you, and your mom, and they would have won gold. Okay, and that was like this has been on full display. This is full display in game 1 when Haliburton and Tatum didn't play. It was on display yesterday when Joel Embiid didn't play. Like this team's loaded. They're going to be fine. And I don't mind Haliburton not going, or excuse me, I don't mind Haliburton not playing. I understand wanting to go though. Like it's the Olympics, it's Paris. Like this is something that happens only once every 4 years. Okay, and I, as a matter of fact, think it's good that Haliburton likes to play basketball. Okay, like you look around the NBA and there's all these guys who don't like to play basketball, and I'm like why not? Seriously. So, good for Team USA. Glad that they won yesterday by less than 29 points. So let's go. Now let's move back. Let's pivot back here to the Indianapolis Colts. And there are certain position battles that are important, that are sticking out. And the biggest one, dare I say the most important one, is the position battle going on at free safety. Now, there's been a lot of discussion around who the Colts are going to play at free safety because there's a major lack of depth at that position. And there isn't a starting caliber free safety on this team. There's not a backup caliber free safety on this team. Okay. It is dormant. Like there's nobody. It's like, do we really want to run Nick Cross out there again? The answer to that is no. Meanwhile, while I'm here, airing this out, Justin Simmons is just like, hanging out somewhere, probably on a beach, staying in shape, doing all those things. Speaking of which, I started this new workout split this week, and I'm feeling it. I feel good. Anyway, Justin Simmons, just sitting there. He's available for the Colts whenever Chris Ballard decides to get his head out of the sand. Seriously, like this is a major position of concern, and I'm disappointed. Not surprised at all, though. Disappointed in the fact that Chris Ballard hasn't done anything to address it, despite the fact that the Colts have cap space left over. Like they can afford Justin Simmons. Okay, I like they really can. And the Colts media, knowing that this position was a major position of concern, they asked Colts defensive coordinator Gus Bradley yesterday what his thoughts were on the position battle so far.
It's been good. I think that was one of the positions we looked at yesterday where we started to see some flashes where, the execution part is there. So now when you see them play with good execution, you can kind of judge their speed then. They're not thinking as much. So, we still got some work to do there as far as our evaluation, but it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. Load of crap right there from Gus Bradley. I love Shane Steichen. I'm on the record. Think he's the 10th best coach in the NFL, given what he did last year with very little Jonathan Taylor and a backup quarterback. And what everyone keeps telling me is a terrible roster. But anyway, love him. I think Shane Steichen's a good head coach. The one thing I don't like, though, is that he still has Gus Bradley as his defensive coordinator. Okay, like this position battle, it's not going well. I don't care what Gus Bradley has to say. It's like, well, Jonathan, you haven't been at training camp. How do you know? How do you know what's going well and what isn't going well? I know it's not going well because Anthony Richardson continues to just light this secondary up literally every single day. Every time I see a report from Colts camp, it's about how Anthony Richardson is lighting up this horrendously bad secondary. Okay, like how many times does Anthony Richardson have to play well for us to be like, geez, this secondary is terrible? Seriously. And when it comes to free safety, it's a major area of concern. How do I know that? I know that because they have Ronnie Harrison playing free safety. Okay, Ronnie Harrison was signed by the Colts either a year or two ago with the intent of him playing linebacker. They're like, hey, man, we want you to shore up some linebacker depth behind EJ Speed, Zaire Franklin, and these guys. We know that you played strong safety when you first entered the league, but we want you to play linebacker. And he was like, okay, anything to keep me in the league, which makes sense. And now they're like, oh, geez, we don't have free safety. Ronnie Harrison, can you play free safety? And he's like, I guess if it gets me on the field, I'll play. And they're like, okay, go play free safety. Even though he's not a free safety. In fact, Ronnie Harrison hasn't played free safety since he was in high school. Okay, and then he showed up at Alabama, and Nick Saban was like, nah, dog, you're not going to play free safety. You're going to play strong safety. And then he was like a second or third round draft pick by the Seahawks, played strong safety there for a couple of years. Now he comes to Indianapolis, and they're like, you're going to play linebacker. And he was like, oh, okay. And now they're like, no, never mind. You're going to play free safety. That's a red flag. Okay, they think Ronnie Harrison, a guy who hasn't played free safety since he was in high school, could potentially be the starting free safety. That is an issue. Okay? Look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm smart enough to realize that if you're asking a guy to change positions to try and fill this void, when you already asked him to change positions when he initially signed with you, that's not a good thing. Okay, they need to go outside the building and bring in someone else, preferably Justin Simmons. Okay? This free safety spot is a major hole in the defense. And taking a former strong safety that was converted to linebacker and now converting him to play free safety, that's not going to fix it. Okay? The fact that they're even considering this tells you just how bad the other players that play free safety are on this roster. Okay, they have to find a solution for this. Now, look, I understand that Gus Bradley can't just ring Chris Ballard out in front of the media because that's how you get fired, and nobody wants to get fired. Okay? But he has to say something at some point. He's got to go to Chris Ballard and be like, hey, man, I need a real free safety. This Ronnie Harrison thing is cool. It's fun, whatever. But, like, we need a guy that can actually play free safety because if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy and the Colts can potentially win the division or make the playoffs, then the Colts are going to have to face the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the playoffs. I don't know about you guys, but I would like to maybe win a playoff game or two. Okay? Those players, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, we can keep going. All those guys are going to eat any of these free safeties on this roster alive if they're back there. The Colts need help, and the answer is right in front of them. And his name is Justin Simmons. Go get him. Now, while that's an area of concern, the defensive line, there's some slight concern there, I guess, with the Ibukum injury, but Chris Ballard has done a good job investing draft capital in this defensive line. And so losing Ibukum, does it suck? Of course. But he is replaceable. Okay, when you lose a player like Samson Ibukum, who led your team in sacks the previous year, you have to ask the defensive coordinator about it. Here is Gus Bradley talking about the loss of Samson Ibukum and what has to happen next.
Yeah, it's tough. Whenever you lose a guy like Samson, a rusher like that, it's always difficult. But someone will step up to it, and we want to be 8 deep. So now it's like, well, who's going to be the next, group of 8? But, someone will step up, and I think everybody sees their role kind of change. And, some guys will get more reps now, and we'll get a chance to evaluate them. So our goal is still to get the 8, and now it might be with just someone else in that place.
Just to accelerate Latu?
We were kind of moving along slow, to get a feel for it. But he'll get more and more reps now.
That was Gus Bradley, Colts defensive coordinator, talking about what happens next with this defensive line with Samson Ibukum's injury. And look, a lot of what he said here makes sense. 8 deep is good. Okay, that's a lot of players to rotate in and out. Looking at the roster now with Ibukum out, I'm going to assume that those 8 players are Kwity Paye, who had 8.5 sacks last year, Leatu Latu, 15th overall pick, Tyquan Lewis, who played sparingly last year and had 4 sacks, DeForest Buckner, who played a lot last year and had 8 sacks, Raekwon Davis, who's a free agent pickup from the Dolphins. He's going to play, interior defensive line. He's fine. Grover Stewart, more of a run defender. Dio Dangbo, who had 8 sacks last year and limited snaps. And then Taven Bryan, another interior defensive lineman. That is not a bad list of players. I will say, though, I hope Taven Bryan plays as few snaps as possible this year. I think the Colts went and got Raekwon Davis in free agency to ensure that they didn't have to play Taven Bryan, but we'll see how that goes up front. Now, there's a part of this clip that I can hear people complaining about. Gus Bradley mentioned bringing Laiatu Latu along slowly, and I can hear the yelling. Why are they bringing this first round pick along so slowly? He was the first defensive player off the board. What? Isn't he supposed to be NFL ready? All that crap. Look, when you have as many productive rushers as the Colts do, there is no need whatsoever to rush Laiatu Latu onto the field. Okay? If they rush him onto the field before he's ready to fully contribute in every facet of the game, that doesn't do anyone any good. Okay, playing rookies just because you drafted them high is stupid. You should play players that are actually ready to play. For example, the Colts threw Bernard Raymond out onto the field his rookie year, and he wasn't ready, and it was terrible, and he struggled mightily, and it wasn't fun to watch because you just knew that he wasn't going to block whoever was in front of him, and it was really hard to watch. Okay, so if Laiatu Latu isn't ready for every scenario, every situation, then he doesn't need to be on the field. He doesn't. Okay, and look, that may be annoying and that may suck, and it's like, why did we spend this pick on this guy if he's not ready to go right away? I don't know. But if he's not ready to play, then he doesn't need to be there. All right, and he doesn't need to be rushed when the Colts have as many productive rushers as they have. Once again, this Indianapolis Colts team, they were third in the NFL in sacks last year without Laiatu Latu. Okay, if they rush him onto the field before he's ready, it doesn't do anyone any good whatsoever. With that being said, I do think that they're going to put Laiatu Latu on the field a lot. I thought that they were going to do it before Samson Ebukam got hurt. I thought we were going to see him, in 50% to 60% of the snaps taken this year. Now that number is probably going to be closer to like 70%, which is great. But here's the thing. Amidst all the draft conversation about Laiatu Latu, it was all about his ability to get after the passer. So for me, I just want to see him on obvious passing situations. I want to see him on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, whatever it is. That those are the moments that I want to see him because that's supposed to be the stuff that he's good at right now. But if it's 2nd and 3 and the Colts want to run Kwity Paye or Dio Wadangbo out there instead, that's fine with me. Fine by me. Seriously. I just want to see Latu on the field in passing situations because that is what he has been advertised as. He's been advertised as this guy that can really get after the quarterback. I don't care what they do on the other downs. Okay, Chris Ballard clearly believes, based on the audio that I played yesterday, that edge rushers have a tough time their rookie season. And when you look at rookie edge rushers, he's right. Okay? Will Anderson Jr., won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. Edge rusher, 3rd overall pick. He had 7 sacks. Okay? So it shouldn't be surprising that the Colts are looking to bring him along slowly after hearing that yesterday. Okay, and because they're bringing him along slowly and because Samson Ebukam got hurt, we're going to see a lot more Kwity Paye. Now, I'm on the record saying that I think Kwity Paye is going to have a big year. And although I don't like Gus Bradley, I do like what he had to say about Kwity Paye yesterday.
Yeah, I think for him, it's just that lean body mass and his quickness, and he's in a really good spot right now. I mean, I think he feels probably better than he ever has coming into camp, and you're seeing it, as far as his speed and things like that. So, another one, we're just challenging. Just, hey, you're in great shape. Now just fine-tune some things and keep playing hard, and let's see where it goes. But he does look really good for us.
That was Gus Bradley talking about Kwity Paye. Look, it's hard to be good if you're not in good shape. That is the first thing for anyone in any sport. And just based on everything that Gus Bradley said there, I feel like there could be legitimate Kwity Paye highlights to show people next year. Even though he had 8.5 sacks last year in a year in which he only played 700 snaps. If he's like some of these other guys and he plays 1,000 snaps, he probably gets to double digits. Who knows? Maybe if he doesn't miss a game because he only played 16 games last year, maybe he has a good game where he gets, 1.5 sacks, then hey, everybody's happy all of a sudden. Okay. Once again, this Colts defense, third in the NFL in sacks last year. So let's chill out about this defensive line isn't very good. Okay. All right. Quiddy Pay, clearly motivated, ready to go after this new contract extension. And it seems like coaches can see that in practice. Hearing Gus Bradley talk there about how much faster he is. He's a little bit more explosive, quicker because he's just kind of slimmed down a little bit, lost, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 pounds or whatever it is. I can't wait to see what he looks like, right? There's been a lot of talk about kind of his offseason program and the ways that he's developed. So can't wait to see how all that pans out on the field. When we come back here in 4 minutes, Quentin Nelson took the stand and had a lot of positive things to say about this offensive line. I will air those out for you when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Welcome back to The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's on the radio, 1430 AM, maybe you're watching on YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. Head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, or maybe you're streaming us live on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you get your apps, the App Store, the Google Play Store, wherever you want to get your apps. Now, Quentin Nelson seems excited about this offensive line. Doesn't really seem like a guy who plays around very much. I think Zaire Franklin learned that yesterday. Now, he had to spend some time at the podium yesterday, and while he was there, he had some high praise for Colt's right tackle, Braden Smith, a guy who's coming back after having some injuries last season.
Yeah, I mean, Braden's a warrior. I think he had a really good offseason of getting healthy and getting strong. And when he was out there, I mean, he was like our best offensive lineman, like running past when he was out there. So just he's done a great job, and he works his tail off to be at his best for the team and for the guys. His care factor is super high for this team, and he shows that through his play. So it's great to have him back out here, working back in and getting back into the groove.
That was Colts offensive guard, future Hall of Famer Quentin Nelson, on having Braden Smith back out. Now, Quentin Nelson doesn't exactly seem like the type to just pass out compliments. Seems like a relatively serious, no-nonsense guy. And in that clip there, he called Braden Smith their best offensive lineman in both run and pass block. Now, the rest of the players on this offensive line could be terrible, but I don't really think that's the case. Why would the Colts bring back the same group 3 years in a row if they thought one of these guys wasn't very good? So, with that being said, I don't think that the Colts are going to have the best offensive line in the NFL. I don't. I think that they're going to be pretty average. Okay, maybe slightly above average. But if Braden Smith can stay on the field this year, if he can stay healthy, and if he can play as well as Quentin Nelson just made him out to be, then maybe the Colts will be able to protect Anthony Richardson this year. Okay, now I've talked a lot about pretty much every other part of this team except for the offensive line. I've talked about the defensive line quite a bit because the Colts obviously drafted Leatu Latu, and then Samson Ebukam got hurt. So the defensive line had to be discussed. I have to talk about Anthony Richardson because he is hopefully going to be the future of this franchise. I had to talk about the wide receivers because Michael Pittman Jr. got an extension in the offseason, and they drafted Adonai Mitchell. But here's the thing. It all starts up front. If the Colts offensive line isn't good, then they aren't going to win very many games. Okay, it's truly that simple. Sure, Anthony Richardson has the ability to extend plays, but you can't ask a second-year player, no matter how talented they are, you can't ask them to be Superman every time he snaps the ball. Okay, the offensive line has to be good. It does. And it's nice, it's encouraging hearing Quentin Nelson say that, Colts right tackle Braden Smith looks good coming off of, an injury-filled season last year, right? Hurt his hip, hurt his knee, had knee surgery in the offseason. So there's obviously fair reason to be concerned about him. So it's nice hearing that Quentin Nelson say that he looks good when he's out there. And the positive comments about Colts offensive linemen just kept flowing from the mouth of Quentin Nelson as he was asked about Bernard Raymond's development over these past 2 years and how he looks heading into year 3.
Yeah, it's just been every year Bernie's been getting better and just learning from his playing experience. And then also one thing I really admire about Bernie is like his rookie year, going through rookie struggles, dealing with injuries too. He's like never once even thought about taking himself out of the game. He's got asked and he's like, no, I'm staying in there. Screw that. And once I heard him say that when he was a rookie, I was just like, this is my left tackle, and he's just grown year after year after year. And it's an honor, pleasure playing next to him. I really enjoy it.
That was Quentin Nelson there talking about Bernard Raymond and just the growth that he's shown over these past couple of years. Now, I'm pretty middle of the road on Bernard Raymond. I think you could do better, but I also think you could do a lot worse. Okay, the one thing there, though, that sticks out is the toughness that Quentin Nelson highlights on just how when he was getting his butt kicked his rookie year, battling injuries, just going through rookie struggles, he refused to come out. And I know offensive linemen are supposed to be tough. Yes, they are, but just because someone's supposed to be something doesn't mean that they are. So, and look, toughness, it's an important part. You know, I know that that's something that Chris Ballard doesn't talk a ton about. It was nice hearing Quentin Nelson talk about it right there. But look, Bernard Raymond was good last year. Okay, like people talk about, you know, Anthony Richardson and how like hopefully he can take a leap and all these things. If he can take a Bernard Raymond from his rookie year to his second year size leap, then Anthony Richardson is going to be good. He's going to be just fine. Okay, because Bernard Raymond was awful his rookie year. I think we all remember that. He couldn't block anybody. He was terrible. He was horrendously bad. And then he comes back next year and there's questions like, is he the Colts offensive tackle of the future? Can he be this franchise's left tackle long term? And he had a good year. He was a good left tackle last year for the Colts. Gave up only 4 sacks and over 1,000 snaps. That's impressive. That is a good year from anybody at any level. Okay. And now look, I know that the Colts did some work there. They tried to get the ball out a little bit quicker and all those things. But hey, man, you can only block for as long as the quarterback has the ball. And he did that. Okay. And if he got better in the offseason, which hopefully he did heading into year 3, and, you know, if he can hold down that blind side for Richardson, then this offense could be pretty good because you got to keep Richardson on his feet. That way he can play all 18 games. And I think one of the positive things is about Bernard Raymond is Quentin Nelson isn't the only guy in the Colts building that has seen the development and the growth of Raymond over these past couple years. Colts offensive coordinator Bob Cooter is seeing the growth that Quentin Nelson has mentioned as well.
Yeah, he's like a lot of young players where came out of a smaller school, had a chance to sort of get into the NFL, get going, and just every single repetition you watch him improve something, whether it's a footwork, whether it's an angle as he's sort of downfield trying to take on that linebacker. What exact angle should I take? You know, just all the nuances that come with all the positions at offensive line, but tackle's one of those. It's not something that happens overnight. It does happen with repetitions. Bernard's gotten a lot of reps over the last several years, and he's really improving through those reps. I think Coach Tony Sperano's doing a great job with him. Chris Watt's doing a great job helping out. Like that room is really doing a great job of working together to get each other better and to get better individually. And Bernie's making the most of it right now, and it's still ongoing. Right, we have all these practice reps, and we go back to the office back there. We have our meetings. We try to correct guys and little slight things. This angle, that step, your hand placement. He's taking those notes. He's improving sort of day after day, and hopefully that's going to show up this year, week after week, just continually getting better. That's what we all want to do.
That was Colts offensive coordinator Bob Cooter talking about the development that he's seen from Bernard Raymond over these past couple years. Players are seeing it. Coaches are seeing it. Like, the Colts need Raymond to play well this year. Okay? Like, you seriously. Like, he has to. And he had a solid year last year. Again, only gave up 4 sacks and a little over 1,000 snaps played. PFF grade, the grade at the end of the year, they gave him an 85, which was 8th best among left tackles. Sorry, got to text Dan back. So he can get my Starbucks. Anyway, so like he was the 8th best left tackle in the NFL last year, according to PFF and how their grading system works. Okay. That puts him in the top quarter of the league. And hopefully he can repeat that year. Hopefully he can have an even better year, honestly, because that offensive line is going to be important. Okay. Like, you have to keep Anthony Richardson on his feet. You have to keep him off the IR. It's important. It's imperative for the success of this Colts team, because if Joe Flacco was playing 10 plus games, then that's not good. It's not good at all. Okay. So this is the 3rd straight year that the Colts have this same unit as their offensive line. That should bode well for them. Here is Colts offensive guard Quentin Nelson talking about just how nice it is to already have some established chemistry with his teammates.
It's great. And with Coach Sperano the last 2 years, it's we've been building the chemistry so much in the O-line room, off the field. You really put the emphasis on that. And then on the field and off the field during camp, we're just having so much fun together. And it really does make a difference on the field for sure. Just our chemistry, our bond, and wanting to play for one another. So yeah, it's been good.
That was Quentin Nelson talking about just how nice it is having chemistry with his other offensive linemen. And that is an advantage for the Colts. And I think we're going to see it early in the season. Look, when you play with the same group of players over the course of a few years, like, it helps. And that's really in anything. When you work for the same boss for an extended period of time, like, you learn things that they like and that they don't like. And it's the same thing in sports, whether that's football, basketball, whatever. Okay, like, you start to understand what your teammates' strengths and weaknesses are. You start to learn what they prefer to do. And that is a real advantage. Okay, like, there shouldn't need to be any tweaking on this offensive line all year because these guys know each other so well. Hopefully, the chemistry leads to them protecting Anthony Richardson well enough that he plays all 18 games this year. Now, I have a bone to pick with the Indianapolis media. The fact that they didn't ask Quentin Nelson about his fight with Zaire Franklin is ridiculous. That should have been the first question that he was asked. And the fact that they didn't is utterly ridiculous. It really is. But, they had to get to Jim Bob Cooter, I guess, who gives great, long, in-depth responses. I've got a lot of audio from him, talked a lot about the offense and how good they look so far through training camp. That's coming your way here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket, wrapping it up before I pass that mic over to the great Dan Dockich, who will be on the air from noon to 3. And let's wrap it up talking about this Colts offense, which I think we're all excited to see. I'm excited to see how Anthony Richardson looks. Hopefully he is the quarterback of the Colts' future, because that is what they need more so than anything else, because you're not going to win games in the NFL. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're not going to win a division unless you have good quarterback play. When we look at the Houston Texans last year, why did they win the division? Because C.J. Stroud was the best quarterback in the AFC South. That's how you win football games in the National Football League. If you don't believe me, go watch the Chiefs. They have the best quarterback in the league, and they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. But anyway, it's also nice if you have other players outside of your quarterback that can play on the offensive side of the ball. The Colts are working on that. Apparently, Alec Pierce had a nice day yesterday at camp, and Jim Bob Cooter was letting us know how this third-year receiver out of Cincinnati looked yesterday.
Plays. He always brings it to practice every single day. He is as consistent as they come. His work ethic, his work habits, his pre-practice habits, just the way he prepares himself to have a shot at having some success during that practice when those opportunities go up. Because I'm kind of remembering right now, a year ago today, you kind of remember, like, if you miss one or two of those, you think you're not having a great camp, but in reality, it's a small sample size type of camp. And he had a great shot at a few today, and he went out and made some huge plays. It goes that way a little bit for wideouts. They're going to be, they're fighting and clawing and scratching to beat their DB for that catch. And quarterbacks trying to put the ball in a certain spot. And sometimes those are 50-50 balls we're trying to get more than 50% of. And Alec went out and made some big ones today. So shoot, we can't get enough guys making big plays around here. That's always going to be the case. And Alec made a few good ones today.
That was Jim Bob Cooter, Colts offensive coordinator, discussing Alec Pierce. And look, I'm glad for Alec Pierce. I'm glad he had a good practice yesterday. I hope he figures it out. I hope he ends up being a viable player down the road. But for this year, it doesn't matter. This job is A.D. Mitchell's. Okay, the Colts wouldn't have drafted him unless they thought he would be able to step in and contribute immediately. Okay, he can just do so much more than Alec Pierce can. While Alec Pierce is a deep threat and he can make plays with one-on-one balls and those things like Jim Bob Cooter was talking about there in that clip, I thought Kent Sterling summarized this battle up pretty well on Dan's show a couple weeks ago during the Power Hour. When Alec Pierce makes a cut, he slows down. Meanwhile, A.D. Mitchell speeds up. When you hear that, do you need to know much more? Once again, I'm glad that Alec Pierce had a good day, but that job as the starting receiver opposite of Michael Pittman Jr., that thing's A.D. Mitchell's. Okay. Now, a job that's actually up for grabs is the tight end position. Jim Bob Cooter was asked about that yesterday, and he revealed that they have absolutely no idea whatsoever as to who's going to get the majority of the snaps at that tight end position.
We're trying to be deliberate about within our practice planning, having enough different reps from different personnel groups where we are seeing some personnel snaps where there are two of them on the field or three of them on the field. And like I said, as we're going into planning out the practice and scripting out the practice, trying to really ensure that we give them those extra few reps. Coach Tom Manning does such a good job managing their daily repetitions and sort of who's getting how many and which ones they're getting. And he's really trying to do a great job of managing, let's not have this one guy block all the time, this one guy run routes all the time. Hey, we're going to mix and match this thing. Hey, let's not have this one guy run this same route all the time. Hey, you get one, he gets one. So we're going to let everybody run all the routes, do what work, all the different blocking combinations and blocking sort of rules and assignments. We're trying to get everybody better. It's training camp, but we're also trying to evaluate how they can best help us as we head into a 17-game NFL season where we're going to need everybody and we're going to need, everything that they can do well. We're going to need that.
That was Colts offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter talking about this tight end position battle. And look, they have no idea what they're going to do. That's what it sounds like to me. Like they're looking at everybody. And the issue is if everybody was like 3 tight ends, not a big deal. But everybody's like 37 tight ends. Okay, now something that I did like hearing in that clip is that they're trying to get multiple tight ends on the field at the same time. And I think that bodes well for the Colts. I think it bodes well for the way that they're going to run their offense this year. Okay, defenses have gotten smaller and faster to counter the speed that a lot of these NFL offenses have on the outside. Okay, like if you have slow linebackers, good luck. If you don't have DBs and safeties that can run, good luck. Right? So I think we're seeing these defenses in the NFL sacrifice some size so that they can get more speed on the field. And all of a sudden you have to come to Lucas Oil Stadium and the Colts are running, ginormous Jelani Woods and Kylan Granson out onto the field. And it's like, geez, these small linebackers not going to bode very well here. So if the Colts run multiple tight ends out onto the field, then they should be able to potentially push some teams around, which is important because the Colts are going to run the football a lot. So I like having the tight ends on the field. There's a lot of them. The skill sets are clearly very different. I think that's part of why the Colts are having everybody do something a little bit different. I think they're trying to identify like who can do what. So from a running game perspective, I'm excited to see multiple tight ends on the field. When it comes to Anthony Richardson and throwing the football, I like having them on the field as well. They're just bigger targets, which you would think would make the throws easier for Anthony Richardson. Like I think it's easier to throw the ball to a guy who's 6'5", 250 pounds as to a guy who's like, I don't know, 5'10", 180 pounds. Okay. And my only request for the tight end room this year is that Kylan Granson plays a lot. Kylan Granson was the 4th leading receiver for the Colts last year. He is a player that can make an impact in the passing game. Okay, so I hope we see him on the field a lot in these passing situations. It felt like several times last year, he just found a way to get open on 3rd down. And it's important to have those security blankets to throw to. It's also important to have players that can make plays after the catch. I thought Granson showed he could kind of do that, but let's be honest. When it comes to making plays after the catch, you want fast, small, quick guys. And Colts rookie Anthony Gould could be a guy for the Colts that makes plays after the catch, according to Colts offensive coordinator Bob Cooter.
Yeah, he's made some big plays, and he's had some opportunities at some other that just quite haven't gotten there. Whether it's just a hair off with a throw or just a hair off with some good coverage. Anthony has shown us that he's going to have the ability to make big plays. Right now, he's pushing the ball down the field. We've just sort of gotten the pads on, and obviously we're not playing sort of tackle football right now. So I think some of the catch and run stuff is something that Anthony can do well. He's got a really exciting skill set. He comes to work every day and works, man. He works. He's working really hard in Coach Reggie's drills. He's putting his time in with special teams. He is making the most of this training camp to sort of improve himself, but also sort of show us what he's got, right? Because, we're excited about the offense that we're sort of putting together this year and all the different sort of tools that we have and ways that we can attack the defense. And, I think Anthony's trying to break into that and sort of show us what he can do when he gets those opportunities, and he's done that, right? Like I said, last few days, he's made some plays down the field. I think there's more that's going to come as we continue through this camp. We're hoping for it.
Jim Bob there with thoughts on both Anthony Gould and Anthony Richardson. Let's start with Gould, who I was excited about when the Colts selected him in the 4th round of this year's previous draft. It's nice that Gould's showing something as a wide receiver. It's nice to hear. When the Colts took him in the 4th round in this previous NFL draft, I immediately thought about how the Chiefs drafted Tyreek Hill in the 5th round with the intent of him being a return specialist. Okay, that's why Anthony Gould was taken. It's like, hey, here's a guy. He's going to return punts. He's going to return kicks, which is a bigger deal now with these new kickoff rules and all these things. And then, Chiefs take Tyreek Hill, and then they throw him out at wide receiver, and it's like, wow, this guy is the most explosive player in the league, and, he helped jumpstart this Chiefs dynasty. Now, I'm not saying Anthony Gould's going to become Tyreek Hill. He probably won't be anywhere close to that. But if he can provide just a little bit of extra juice for this offense, that'd be great. Like, you can never have too much explosiveness on an offense. Okay, and I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this Colts team to make plays after the catch, just because Adonai Mitchell, like, dude's blazing fast, ran a 4.3 40 at the combine. Josh Downs, small little jitterbug guy in the slot, ran a 4.4 at the combine. Anthony Gould is extremely explosive. That's why he's returning kicks and he's returning punts. Okay, like, I'm very interested to see how this Colts offense looks. They've had an influx of speed just with Jonathan Taylor coming back. So I'm intrigued to see how this offense looks. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. I think Shane Steichen is going to figure out a way for this offense to score points. And part of that is going to include Anthony Richardson pushing the ball down the field, which in that clip there, you heard Jim Bob Cooter discussing. Okay, like, it's nice to hear that Richardson is showing the willingness to push the ball down the field. Big plays are becoming a more and more important part of offenses in the NFL, which makes sense. Okay, like, it's much harder to score when you're trying to sustain 10, 12, 15 play drives where every other play is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Like, it's hard to score that way. It's much easier when Jonathan Taylor's like, here, let me just take this run for 50 yards, and the next thing you know, you're inside the red zone, right? Or it's much easier when Anthony Richardson hits Josh Downs open down the seam. Okay, like, it's easier to score that way. Like, it's part of why the Dolphins score so many points. They're just this big play machine, right? And in order to do that, like, you have to, first of all, you have to have guys that can get open and have the speed to create these openings. And between Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, who found a way to get open a lot last year, like, they have guys who can create space and get open, right? And then you've got this gadget guy in Gould who could potentially make some plays. Like, there's some speed on this offense. Quentin Nelson seems excited about the offensive line. Like, I'm very optimistic about how this offense looks. It just all comes back to Anthony Richardson. That's what it all comes back to. Just like every other offense in the NFL. Is your quarterback good enough to execute everything that's going on in your offense? And look, I know that this Colts secondary is terrible, but he's finding ways, talking about Anthony Richardson, even though he's playing against a bad defense in training camp, like, he's still finding guys that are open. He still is. I'm looking forward to these, joint practices with the Cardinals and the Bengals. I think we're going to learn a lot about the Colts during those practices and everything that kind of happens there. So can't wait. Should be fun. We got football tonight, August 1st, Hall of Fame game, Texans, Bears. No Caleb Williams, which really sucks. I was excited to watch him play this year. So it's going to be good. I can't wait. I probably won't watch every snap tonight, but I'm going to watch a decent amount of it. I'll at least throw it on while I'm prepping. I'm sure my wife will just be overjoyed at the sight of football. Colts' first preseason game is only 11 days away. Can't wait. Anthony Richardson, hopefully he has a big year. I believe the Colts have practice again today. I'm sure I'll talk more about it tomorrow. Funless Friday tomorrow. All that great stuff. Zach Gray, hopefully joining me. If he is, I think we're going to do some over-under bets on the upcoming season. Either way, I'll probably do those either way, but can't wait. That's coming up tomorrow. But coming up here in 5 minutes, it's the Dan Dockett Show on live from noon to 3. Download that Indy Sports Ticket app so you can tune in. This has been the Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow from 10 to noon.